think we're close enough to 9:30 and Kristine's here and she's ready to go. So come on up and
All right. Give it to me, can you just sit here?
wherever you want. You want to sit there, up in front here?
So, yes, good morning. My name is Kristine Goddard Anderson. I usually go by Kiki. That's my nickname I had growing up, and it's been convenient in the last few years because the city of Thief River Falls hired an economic development director whose name is also Kristine Anderson, but she's a CH. So I've been just going by Kiki because that's what most people know me by. I'm the executive director of the Northwest Private Industry Council, which is one of the 16 workforce development boards in the state of Minnesota. Every 2 years, we come to the county boards to update the Joint Powers Agreement. The Joint Powers Agreement basically says that the 7 participating counties agree that the local elected officials will be the executive committee of the Northwest Regional Development Commission, and then that local elected officials group will appoint the members to the Workforce Development Board. This updated agreement that I sent over, the only thing that changes in it from the 2016 agreement is the dates. That's it. It's just another 2 years with the same exact provisions.
So who represents Norman County on here?
On which, the local workforce development board or the local elected officials board?
Both.
Okay, the local elected officials board is Commissioner Redland, who serves on the Northwest Regional Development Commission's board, executive board, and from Norman County, it's Edie Ramstad. So, yeah. We've undergone some significant changes in about the last 4 years, and we now deliver program services through a contracted agreement with Inter-County Community Council, which is a CAP agency, and they have staff workers who provide services and come down and work with the participants at the local level. So administratively, with declining funding, it made more sense to contract it out to an organization that had greater staff and capacity to do that. So we no longer deliver the services directly, which, given the changes in the federal law and the board being responsible for more convening of partners on both a local and regional level, and there are greater requirements for competitive procurements of one-stop operators and things like that, it actually falls more in line with what the federal law envisions for local workforce development boards.
So you have an idea how many participants you're working with in Norman County?
No, I don't, but I can sure send you that information. Some of the times when we've presented that information to the board, to the local workforce development board, we're unable to do so because the low numbers just generally. So for example, in our federal dislocated worker program, there may only be 4 people who meet the requirements of those programs, and so even releasing where they live, we can't because of Data Practices Act.
I was curious on that.
Yeah, so, I mean, for our federal dislocated worker, our dislocated worker programs are harder to find participants for in our local area, because if someone has been dislocated from a job or laid off through no fault of their own, which is a requirement, they're being picked up really pretty quick by another employer. They have a stable work history and they're let go because of, you know, a manufacturer lost a contract or something. They're getting picked up with really almost no needed basis for any additional training. So one of the things that we've done is shift some of the program participant dollars into funds that can be used for employers to train their existing workforce. And so we do have some employer incumbent worker grants that are available for employers throughout the region to train their existing workforce. So
how large are those grants?
They can be up to $10,000, and they can be used for anything. Counties can use them. Counties can use them. Counties can use them.
That's great.
I think she's trying to give us some
Right. Cities can use them, nonprofits can use them, school districts can use them, but it can't be for training that is required. So if a trainee is required to maintain a license, the incumbent worker dollars can't be used for that. And on the other end of the spectrum, it can't be used to bring in, let's say, a motivational speaker into an organization. It has to be something that is a certificate and will really help move the business forward. So one of the things that we've done is we've offered trainings for supervision, supervisory skills. We have some coming up here in June. Employee engagement and retention, and then dealing with difficult employees and people. And so some trainings that are really broad-based that would apply to all industries. And we've had several businesses come and participate in those, and I have some information that I can leave if anyone's interested in that as well.
So where's your money source coming from?
We receive grants from the federal government, from the Department of Labor, through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. That's allocated to the state and then allocated to our local region based on a formula, the spreadsheet that is quite complicated. And then we also receive state dislocated worker money. And so both of those sources of funds.
So your job, one of your jobs then is to utilize that funding in whatever way possible that meets their requirements.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that has been challenging, especially over the course of the last 2 years, has been finding and locating workers who would qualify for the state dislocated worker funds. And it's been challenging in some respects just because the low unemployment and the folks that, there may be folks who need additional assistance, and we have an adult program for that, but those funds, and so what we have done is, so we have this federal dislocated worker, we have state dislocated worker, and we have federal adult. And the law allows you to transfer funds between the federal dislocated worker and the federal adult. And so we've done that to the extent of about 70% of the funds have gone in to help those people who have some serious barriers, whether or not it be criminal past, whether or not it be a disability, whether or not it be low income, something like that. So we've made adjustments where possible. The state dollars actually are the most inflexible, and which is odd because Minnesota tends to have a little bit more flexibility. So that's one of the things that the board is really looking at, how can we advocate for greater flexibility. One of the things that we hear across the region is the need to explain to high school students that you don't necessarily have to go get a 4-year degree to get a really good paying job. There are tremendous opportunities here, and that outreach to schools. When WIOA was passed, there was a shift between the 75% of the funds in the youth program needed to be spent on in-school youth. WIOA changed that to 75% of the funds had to be spent on out-of-school youth. And so when you were working with at-school youth that were in the school, they had a counselor, they were really helped get them that first grade work experience. That was wonderful. We served probably 75 kids across 7 counties. Right now we're able to serve 22 because of the way the funding has shifted, and really only 8 out of school, because these are the kids that aren't attached to a school, are maybe couch hopping, or maybe they don't have any of the support system. And so that federal policy was driven by Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, really metro areas, and it's impacted the ability to provide some great work experience in summer youth programs. And so we would like to see the state make some allowances that the local board would be able to say, hey, we have these state dislocated worker dollars and this workforce development money at the state level, but what we really need in our local area is more outreach to high schools, helping those guidance counselors provide career opportunities, because there are career education and career planning resources that many local high schools don't necessarily have the ability to do those kinds of things. And right now it's just kind of we can't use the funds for that right now, so we try to get creative and use other things. So and of the 16 workforce development boards across the state, it's done 16 different ways. So some of those workforce development boards are county specific down in the Twin Cities. Anoka County has its own workforce development board, Ramsey, Washington, Dakota, things like that. So you get a lot of them down in the Twin Cities. And then the city of Duluth, some of their directors are county employees, some of them are city employees, some of them, like us, are nonprofits. And so we get together every month and talk about everything, so it's a great, there's a statewide association, with Ann Kilzer with the Minnesota Association of Minnesota Counties. I know she does some work for them, she's also our executive director, so.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So getting back to this $10,000 for employee
Yes.
training. Can that be used by like the human resource department to
Absolutely.
do employee training on different subject matters?
Yes, it can. So here is the incumbent worker training program application.
Perfect, thank you.
And then here are some trainings that we have coming up in the next few weeks. I know the supervisor one session that was noted for June, or April 30th and May 1st has actually been moved, I think, to the June 15th and 17th date, so.
Where are those trainings?
Those trainings are at the Service Co-op in Thief River Falls, and so it works as a reimbursement grant. MRA is providing the training. They're a training provider out of the Twin Cities that works with a lot of businesses. We had them up last September. And so, for example, Hugo's was one of the businesses that sent a bunch of folks in for supervisor training, customer service training, and Wally in Thief River, just before he retired, he stopped me in there and he goes, Kiki, I gotta tell you, he said, these trainings are phenomenal. He said, we've seen great improvement just from our supervisors who went. We sent other folks there. They said they've really been impactful and we really, really appreciate them. So that's great. So some of our employers, I know that Edie had sent a couple employees for the customer service ones that we did last year.
So basically, I'm not reading all your stuff here, but you just fill out one of these forms here
Yep.
and then request.
Send it to me.
How many people you're interested in the training, is that how it is?
Yep, or if there's another training that they have in mind that they'd like to send folks to, we can work with them and make sure that they're, a reasonable organization that provides decent training. It is really business-led, so there's not the requirements of some of our other client-based training providers. But at the same time, I know we had one request to bring in someone who wasn't affiliated with any organization, and we said, that doesn't feel right, that doesn't feel like we should provide a grant for just someone to come in, and there wasn't that, it just wasn't right, it wasn't the right kind of request, so, but they welding training, we've done some, MI2 over in Bemidji is doing some training for some of their production folks, and they'll do customized training. Colleges can do customized training too, so, yeah.
So how do employers find out about this stuff? I mean, that's-
That has been the struggle. We've been working with a lot of the Chamber of Commerce's and getting the information out that way, attending industry meetings like the Highway 2 West Manufacturers meetings, and then me sending emails to a bunch of people letting them know about it, yeah, so that's, any help that you can provide in letting people know about it, that would be greatly appreciated, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Kiki? So you're here today, you want some action on this joint powers agreement.
Yes.
And that is a 1-year agreement?
It's a 2-year agreement.
2-year agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. So, would someone want to put forth a motion then to enter a joint powers agreement with the Northwest Workforce Service Area for another 2 years?
We'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hall, is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, now you guys are
Nathan.
tied up there. All right, second by Nathan, Commissioner Edlund. Is there any discussion on the agreement? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried.
I have an original here for you to sign,
Okay.
and when I finish making my rounds to the other counties, there's Norman. I will forward over a copy of the original.
I don't have as good a handwriting as Sharon brings, so apologize for that.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions for Kiki before she departs?
Just thinking,
Yeah.
You aware of Norman County West problems in school?
It just came up actually at a workforce solutions roundtable that we had last, it was about a month ago. And that came up. But other than that, that was the first that I had heard about it at this time. I believe that there was some discussion about maybe an idea of a training center of
Yeah.
some kind.
Yeah.
Yep,
Is there any way you could help out there, or?
absolutely. I could have help.
I don't know if it'll work or not, but it's something certainly to talk about. And we'd certainly be interested in something like that over there.
Yeah.
If it, any way it could work out.
Yeah.
I think it's, do you see a need for the kids to have that kind of education, or?
I think that what we've run into when we've looked at applying for different grants in our area of the state and different funding sources, it's the sustainability piece that seems to get in our way all the time. When we train smaller cohorts of students, trying to make it fiscally make sense, even with braided funding sources, seems to be problematic. I think that if the training center concept was quite broad and could train adults in need of additional career services as well as students, and there are some places down in southwest Minnesota who've tried this with their ALC and trying to braid some adult WIOA funding, ADE partners and some other things in there. There are definitely some other models that I could help bring forth as ideas, and I'd be happy to do that.
Sustainability, you mean enough kids coming, or,
Yes, and
or
the
money?
funding,
Money.
the funding,
Funding part.
the funding part of it. So, yeah. So,
Yeah. Well, maybe something to keep an idea.
yeah,
or-
if there's a contact person that I can reach out to and offer to bounce some ideas off of, or let them know of other programs that I'm aware of in the state, I'd be happy
Well,
to.
I'm sure you could,
They're just in the
Let-
process of hiring a director there,
Oh, okay.
so they're gonna be doing that within the next couple of weeks, hiring a director for that, so that would be the
maybe
person.
put a bug in their ear, put the school board over there or
School board?
something.
Okay, yep, I'll contact you.
See
They have a
what you can do, I don't know what
And
you can do.
superintendent, yeah.
Okay. What's
To
that
help them
person?
out.
What?
Here's a name and some phone numbers of somebody you can contact.
All right, I will reach out to them.
All right,
So, thank you so much.
Yep, thanks
Good
for
to see
coming.
you all.
Can I get your email address? Is that,
Yep,
I see there's a website.
yep, it's right there, but I can find it.
Oh, okay, I see the website.
Yeah.
I can forward this to our chamber. Secretary Treasurer for the chamber.
Go to this website for, because we did the
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
I'll give you everything I have, because I can review. There's a incumbent worker
We're in the wrong
application on
business.
there too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
all right, it's 9:40.